Hello, I'm here with Brendan Perrin from IPIA. Hi, Brendan. How are you doing?
Hi, Jack. I'm very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the IPIA and what you do for them?
Yeah, sure. So, I have a bit of a eclectic path to my position as general manager at the Independent Print Industries Association. Started off as a jobbing newspaper journalist around Scotland. Ended up in 6 months in the investigative division of the Sunday Times of Scotland, and that was a fascinating experience where I found out I don't enjoy having people threaten to break my legs. Um,
Mm, yeah.
and and then
It's a,
the
it's a
global
life choice, you know.
it's a life choice. Yeah, yeah. At the time, I was young and fearless and thought that was lots of fun. But then credit crunch, global credit crunch ended that. News International laid off hundreds of journalists, so I went with it. Um, did a postgrad in multimedia journalism, found out about business to business publishing, and ended up at Link Publishing, which owns Print Monthly and Signlink magazines. I was the editor of those two titles, and managing editor of the publishing house for 9 years ish. Um, Founded the print show with the team there in 2015. And then in early 2019, I moved to become general manager of the IPIA, that we're a big customer and partner for the publishing house. And yeah, I've been in trade association land ever since. And in terms of the IPIA, we effectively do four core things to explain it in a nutshell. One is that we leverage the size of our association. We have 400 members across the UK, and we effectively go to service providers, whether that is HR, legal, utilities, credit checking, um, and everything in between, everything that is required to effectively run an SME business. And we either pay a retainer to those organizations so that our members have free access to all of those services, or leveraging the size of our association, we negotiate very significant discounts so that, if you want utilities consultancy in a brokerage, then, for example, that you can literally get that cheaper being an IPA member than any other possibility outside of the association. So in that way, we try to reduce our members' overheads on an annual basis and give them access to high quality services to run their business. Two is we market our members. So, anyone who goes and looks at the IPA LinkedIn feed or our website, we're continuously promoting and pushing our members' news and PR and content and everything that they're doing. We have a big digital presence, but we also have a quarterly magazine that goes out to pretty much 99% of the print industry supply chain that members are publicized through there. So we market their business for them. Third is networking. So we run a series of live events throughout the year, both online, digital, and physical. And the whole purpose of those is to bring together the whole supply chain in person, except for our big breakfast, which is online, to network, learn from each other, educate each other, and effectively create business partnerships and generate new customers. So in that way, we're generating new sales volumes for our members through bringing them all together in a supply chain at these events. And then the last thing we do is advocacy for the national print industry. That is through the Department for Business and Trade, the central government, and also through a number of different projects designed to try and raise the profile of print and educate consumers and businesses about the efficacy, effectiveness, and truth of the print industry.
So, I've got to say, I mean, some of what you've sort of described there sort of takes your skills as a journalist and that you've used with communication and the magazine. But there's quite a lot there that I guess you've had to develop the skills for, had to learn. I mean, how's that transition been for you? I know you've been there a few years now. It probably seems old hat, but it feels like a big step.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was at the start, but I think there's a lot of transferable skills, both from whether you've done PR or marketing or journalism. And effectively, I think the biggest transferable skill is of, say a journalist, as I was, is that you need to go from knowing nothing about a subject to at least being able to be conversant in the subject very quickly. So that process of research, learning, and application becomes sort of second nature to you. And I think that's been the most helpful thing in my transition from, being a journalist and editor to running a trade association. Although I'll admit that things like finance, accounting, business management were all a trial by fire.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you've run through the various elements that the IPIA does. What, how are these each parts? What are the benefits that each one of those is really giving to your members? Can you give any sort of examples of that?
Yeah, so I mean, I can give you an example whereby something really down to earth. So, 8 Group, people may have known them as 8 Days a Week Print Solutions previously. They're a good example of a member that utilizes almost all of our benefits front to back. And one example is they have saved thousands of pounds on their utilities overheads by utilizing our IPA utilities brokerage partner, BCR Associates, who've also been able to consult with them on reducing their carbon footprint. And that's a direct saving that the business now has. So, an IPA membership, depending on your size, on average is about £900 a year. And they've saved 3 times that on one member benefit alone. So in that sense, almost like a cooperative, members are paying into the centre, but we're then able to leverage those funds to give them savings and advantages that far outweigh that investment. And then, another example would be at every single event that we run, you have, for example, print businesses coming together, networking, talking, chatting, understanding each other's businesses. And I've had, I can't reveal who it is, but, very recently we've had 2 members come together, one who is about to embark on heavy investment in specialty embellishment equipment. So being able to add digital foils, UV varnishing, etc., to make print, to add value to the printed product and make them more attractive. They were in conversation with a member who'd already invested on all of that equipment, but was suffering with some of its digital print volume. So those 2 members got together and realized that instead of both, the former member going off and investing in, a few £100,000 worth of equipment, and also the other member investing in a new press in order to up their normal volume, they could simply do a trade partnership together where one was able to utilize the services of the other on trade for all of its specialty embellishment work, and the former, whenever it had overflow needs, would send its standard work to the former member. So that way, they've now both saved, tens of thousands of pounds in equipment investment, and are utilizing each other's strengths in order to service both service their customers better.
And that's all through coming together at events. I mean, probably lots of examples of that over the years of networking you've done. You've got the print show coming up. You've also got your conference coming up prior to that. To start off with the print show, obviously it's something that you launched originally many years ago. Where do you think that now sits in the annual calendar of the industry?
So, I mean, it was my belief when we first set it up, and it remains my belief today, that an industry the size of, the combined commercial print, wide format, large format, promotional merchandise sector in the UK, because they all now cross over and interweave. And you can have printers now that do wide format and do promotional merchandise. You get promotional merchandise printers who are doing standard CMYK print. It's all blurred very heavily. But ultimately, an industry of that size requires at least one national event of significant scale and size that brings them all together, an opportunity to bring them all together bring all the supply chain together effectively as an economic kickstarter. And we're at the IPA, we're doing that in a smaller way through all of our physical networking events throughout the year. Other media organizations do that. The Print Week Awards is another good example. Each one of these smaller events are small economic kickstarters because they're bringing buyers and sellers together in order to do business. And I think the print show, that gap in the market is required because you need that type of event to keep the greasing the wheels of our supply chain and our economy.
Okay. Good stuff. So the print show comes a little bit after your conference. So I presume there'll be some, while you're at the show, there'll be some elements of what's being announced at the conference that you might bring to the show. But what's your sort of main objective at the show to communicate to people that are coming up?
So we've got a stand at the show, and one of our main objectives is that we have many members who are exhibitors at the event. So we will go around all of our members who are exhibitors, and on the marketing standpoint that I discussed with you before, we will go around and shoot, mini videos on them, showcase their products and services, what they're doing, conduct interviews, put that out on our social media platforms, our digital newsletter, to promote their businesses and give them, further ROI on what they're doing at the show. Then we also work on behalf of our members that are exhibiting as well, where the IPA is meeting, visitors in the aisles. We're chatting to them, understanding why they're at the show, what they're looking for. And then, of course, we're able to recommend members that are exhibiting and either personally take those visitors round to visit our members, or point them in the right direction. And then lastly, of course, it's a good opportunity for the IPA to meet new potential members, explain to them about the benefits of the association and how we could help their business. And also as a good barometer for us to be able to speak to lots of people who aren't members, and understand where the industry sits at the moment.
Good stuff. Okay, so you've got your own event, the autumn conference coming up before. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening there and how people maybe who are or not members might want to get involved?
Yeah, so non-members are very welcome to the conference, and we always have probably about 20% of our guests or so are non-members. The idea behind the conference is that every single year we have a theme which has been generated through focus groups that we run at the IPIA. So the single biggest repeating topic or trend that came up over the last 6 months before we decided on the theme for this year's conference is that following all of the disruption in COVID and everything that followed on with utilities price increases from the Ukraine war, the biggest issues is that overheads basically are increasing significantly no matter where you are in the print supply chain. They're at the highest levels they've been relatively for decades, probably since 2009. Then you have unstable patterns of demand because, especially in commercial print, the rhythmic cycle of print ordering was thrown into disarray. And although the hope was that would reestablish itself, it largely hasn't. Many large organizations that had got into the habit of placing orders of print at certain times or for events or whatever, a lot of that got disrupted. So you have a much more unstable pattern of demand, which makes it much more difficult to predict and run a print business. We're still hearing stories from members today where they don't understand it. They might be horrendously busy for 2 or 3 months, and then it will drop off a cliff, and they'll be very quiet for 2 or 3 months in what should be their busiest season. So unstable patterns of demand. And then the third kind of key issue that they kept raising is that if we imagine that the commercial print industry and so forth is like a sort of static watering hole of work that exists, the current issue is that print businesses see themselves as clustering at that watering hole and fighting for and jockeying for position for the work that already exists. And so competition in traditional markets is very, very fierce. So the point of the conference is effectively to bring together print service providers, consultants, to speak to the audience and help them understand that they need to get out of that mindset of being clustered to that watering hole. That if they stood up and looked over, they'd realize there's literally a river of opportunity running very close by. Now, it's not easy to access that river. It's not necessarily easy to jump into it. There are risks involved. But effectively, they can jump into that river and stop that horrendous fight at the watering hole. And part of that is creating work that potentially didn't exist before as well. So each one of the speakers has gone through that process and achieved it successfully. They've worked to be consultative with their customers. They've tried to understand what other products and services they would need or how they could help their business grow. They've stopped seeing their product as ink on paper, but rather what does that ink on paper do for their customer base? How does it grow their business, add value to their brand, create more engagement with their customers? And understanding that that's the product, then talking to their customers and being able to help them say, okay, well, if your goal is 5% market share growth a year, we have some incredible ideas utilizing the medium of print, maybe print linked to digital, about how we can help you achieve that market growth. So each one of the speakers will talk from their own perspective and angle on how they've gone about that process. And the idea is then that you're inspiring the audience in order to show them it's possible. It's not easy, but it is possible to get away from the watering hole. And what effectively that does is if you can get away, move into markets where there's growth, where you can make better margins, where you can stop competing on price alone, it helps to counteract that overhead issue. You're starting to take control of demand patterns because you're the one generating the work with your clients and you're not just waiting passively for work to come in. And yeah, it overall, that's the idea. There's 3 hours of talking and conference content, 3 hours of networking in an expo, a networking hub, which is surrounded by 13 members who are exhibiting there, who are technology providers, software providers, service providers. So there's a chance to understand what's the cutting edge of technology in the market, how could it help your business, network with fellow attendees to find new opportunities, and then learn from the conference content, all while having some jolly good nosh.
Great stuff. Well, there's so many. I mean, people aren't getting out and seeing people as much as they were for all sorts of good reasons. But I think events like this, events like the print show, where you really maximise the benefit of leaving your home or office and actually getting out and seeing people. And this sounds like you've got a packed day. I have to say, one thing that you definitely see from IPIA is a packed calendar of activities and events and topics. Whether you're at the Downing Street or doing an online breakfast thing, there's a lot happening. So, and I guess you're behind a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm sort of the project manager for it all, I guess. We have a lot of help from my council colleagues, and service providers around that obviously help achieve and create all that. But yeah, really our USP is to continuously, engage outside of our industry to try and raise its profile and reduce the gap between unjustified perceptions of print and what the reality of our industry is. And then also fundamentally to continue to bring the supply chain together as much as we possibly can, because our overall belief is the more that we can bring supply chain together to network, the more they learn and understand from each other, the more they share business intelligence between each other, it effectively strengthens the hand of our industry. People who are being successful and doing good things share that knowledge with people who are struggling. They can take that information away, apply it, become stronger, and it just knits our industry together. So,
well, thanks very much for your time on this, Ben. Really, really interesting. Look forward to seeing you at the conference and at the print show. And
indeed, well, you are a panelist on the on one of the sessions there, so I look forward to grilling you in return, Jack.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right, thank you.